Now, I've reviewed pretty much all the variants of the HP Envy x360 line over the last few years, and it was very popular. And of course, the last couple of years, there were some things I wanted to see changed that I was hoping that would have been changed by now. And good news is I've received 2 units here for 2024. I got a 14-inch version and a 16-inch version. The 14-inch version's running the Intel Core Ultra 7 155U, the Meteor Lake processor from Intel, and the 16-inch is running the AMD Ryzen 7 8840HS with its integrated Radeon graphics, a 780M. So I wanted to see a better keyboard in terms of a darker key so we could see the backlight better. I wanted to see less screen wobble. I wanted high-end displays even on the AMD variant, and I wanted to see good performance overall and good battery life. And I'm happy to report pretty much yes across the board to all of those. So we're gonna get into it today, why I think the HP Envy x360 14 and 16 are some pretty intriguing choices, especially those that are price conscious that don't wanna break the bank. Hey everybody, it's Andrew, and this is my review of the HP Envy x360 14 and 16 inch here for 2024. Coming up.
Now, before we get to the units themselves, I just want to let everyone know, in the interest of transparency and full disclosure, I'm not being paid by HP. I'm not being sponsored by HP. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. HP is not getting copy approval. That means they're seeing this video for the first time, just like you. Now, these units were provided by HP, and once this review is done, I'll be sending them back. Now, I already did a live unboxing of both these units, so for those that didn't see it, I'll leave a link in the description below to the replay. You don't want to miss it. Pretty interesting stuff here. And one of the things that attracted me to this line, of course, is the price to performance ratio. I think you get a lot of bang for the buck. And considering the high-end displays that they're now packing into these, this is a really intriguing choice here for 2024. Now, Best Buy is having a sale right now with a couple of different SKUs on sale, so really good deals there. Links will be in the description below. And if you want the IMAX enhanced display with the variable refresh rate up to 120 hertz, that model is on sale over at HP's website for $969.99. That's on sale, and I would check that one out if you can, because that display is pretty awesome. Now, the 16-inch also on sale at Best Buy, depending on the SKU, of course. And if you head on over to HP's website, again, you can get the IMAX enhanced display, which is what HP sent over. Again, links for everything will be in the description below. Okay, we're going to start off with the displays, the big star of the show here for both of them, the 14-inch on the left and the 16-inch on the right. They're 2.8K resolution, that's 2880 by 1800. They're IMAX enhanced displays with a variable refresh rate up to 120 hertz. Well, what does that mean? Well, you're going to get the very smooth scrolling and the very fluid experience of 120 hertz here. So that's going to be great in terms of the experience overall. And I like having that. They both have pen support, and they both, of course, are touch displays. So they are convertibles. The pen is optional, doesn't come in the box, but I was able to use the same pen that I have for the Spectre line. And of course, this works very well here for taking notes, sketching out artwork, and all that. So that is good in terms of these displays. Now, with the OLED display, you get the really deep blacks, the super vibrant colors, the really high contrast. It's all here. Excellent coverage of the color gamut on both. They're both very color accurate. So if you're going to do content creation in Lightroom, Photoshop, video editing, color grading, and things of that nature, these are excellent displays for those tasks. And these are HDR displays. Watching high dynamic range content in Netflix, Amazon, YouTube has been excellent on these panels. Now, when it comes to screen brightness, 400 nits standard dynamic range, and can peak up to 500 nits when watching HDR content. And I pretty much measured that in my measurements, of course, and that has been pretty good. Now, these are glossy displays, so depending on your lighting condition, you will notice some glare and reflections. Wasn't too bad, but something to be aware of course. And with any OLED display, screen burn-in might be an issue down the road, although I haven't really experienced too much screen burn-in on these units. Of course, I didn't have them that long, but OLED displays, you just have to be careful. Don't leave static images too long on the display. Of course, the screensaver will come on, but still, you want to be cognizant of that. And there is screen flickering, or PWM, when you lower the brightness on below, I would say 30% screen brightness. So for those sensitive to PWM or screen flickering, that is something to be aware of as well. But my overall takeaway is these are excellent displays, especially at these price points. And I'm glad to see the high refresh rate here and the really nice displays included in this Envy line here for 2024. And for those wondering where to store the pen, it does stick magnetically to the side of the unit. I think the connection was pretty secure, although when traveling, put it into pocket in your bag. Don't keep it connected. It might fall off, but it's a pretty decent connection nonetheless.
So this is the camera on the HP x360, the 14-inch 5-megapixel camera here. It's an IR camera. That means you can log in, face recognition, Windows Hello. I'm actually running this at 1440p video in the settings here on this Windows camera app. I think this is capable to go even higher, but this is what I'm running it at. What do you think about the video quality? What do you think about the audio quality? These have the AI effects, of course, that because this has an NPU, it's a Meteor Lake. On this one, of course, we're talking about auto framing here. So you can keep you always in frame. It actually works really well, very responsive. We can turn that off right here. You got the eye contact, you got the background blur. This is the portrait blur, and this is the standard blur. If you have a messy background, this works really well, or you don't need to do it at all. So it's up to you. Again, IR meaning logging in with face recognition. So this is the camera on the 16-inch NVX360 here for 2024. This is running the AMD Ryzen 7 8840HS. This also is an IR camera. That means you can log in with face recognition, Windows Hello. It's a 5-megapixel camera. I'm running this at 1440p video here on the Windows camera app. It also has a shutter switch, just like on the 14. I don't know if I mentioned that. There is a shutter switch above the camera to give you more security and privacy, so you got to like that. What do you think about the video quality? What do you think about the audio quality? This also has the AI effects or the studio effects with the background blur. You get the eye contact, you get the auto framing. I already showed it to you. Works the same way here on this AMD-based model as well. I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments section below.
And when it comes to the size, you can see the difference between the 14-inch and the 16-inch. Obviously, the 14-inch will be a little bit more portable, have a smaller footprint, which is to be expected here. But for a 16-inch, I have to say it's pretty portable in its own right, so that's been pretty good. And you can see the footprint one on top of the other here. So you can definitely see the difference. For those on the fence, whether to get the 14 or 16, this is what you can expect. You're looking at 1.377 kilograms, and that would be 3 pounds, 0.6 ounces. So a little bit above 3 pounds. Not too bad, not too bad. Now, let's get a travel weight with the power charger and the power cord here. And that brings it to 3 pounds, 10.4 ounces, and that would be 1.655 kilograms. So that's all in for total travel weight. Not too bad. Now, if you have the pen, okay, so let's just use this pen for argument's sake here. And this one is 1.668 kilograms, and that would be 3 pounds, 10.8 ounces for a total travel weight. And we're looking at 1.772 kilograms, and that is 3 pounds, 14.5 ounces. And let's get a total travel weight. So we get the power cord and the power charger, 2.061 kilograms, and that is 4 pounds, 8.7 ounces. And if we go back to kilograms with the pen, that brings it to 2.074 kilograms, and that is 4 pounds, 9.2 ounces. That's for a 16-inch laptop all in total travel weight. Now, as far as what's user upgradable, unfortunately, like most laptops here in 2024, the RAM is soldered into the motherboard. Now, on the 14-inch, which is running the Intel Core Ultra processor, the Meteor Lake, that caps out at 32 gigabytes of RAM. So that's an option for you. Of course, you'll have to do that at time of checkout. Running in dual channel mode, 6400 megahertz is the speed. And on the right, the AMD Ryzen, of course, here is used. So 16 gigabytes is what it maxes out. Of course, a little bit disappointing. We like to see above that. But as far as the RAM on both, they're running in dual channel mode, and it would have been nice to have upgradable RAM, but that is a thing of the past. So let's get used to it, of course. And when it comes to the SSDs, good news on both. They are replaceable SSDs. They're slotted in. And as you can see, the reads and writes are better on the 16-inch with the AMD model there than on the Intel model, the 14-inch. I'd like to see those writes a little bit better, but still fast enough for what you need this laptop to do. Okay, let's talk about the wireless, and they take a different approach here. On the left, on the Intel version here, on the 14-inch, it is slotted in, of course, so that means that you can change it out down the road, and it's running Wi-Fi 7 along with Bluetooth 5.4, and it's an Intel Wi-Fi 7, so that is really good. I like to see that, especially at this price point, more future-proof. Kudos to HP for putting it on the 14-inch. However, I will say that on the AMD variant on the right, the 16-inch also slotted in, which is good news here. So if you want to change it out, you can. But that's running a MediaTek Wi-Fi 16, a Bluetooth 5.3 combo card. Not quite as up to date as the Intel variant on the left. So a little bit disappointing there. Now, having said that, the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth on the 16-inch as well as the 14-inch, both working flawlessly. No issues with either one. Just wish they both had Wi-Fi 7, not just the one on the left, the 14-inch. And I love the fact that HP has teardown videos on how to service and maintenance these laptops, both the 14 and the 16. I'll leave links for those videos in the description below. I think HP does an excellent job in that regard. I love the fact that they're caring enough to the consumer to put those videos out. Kudos to them. Okay, let's check out the port selection. We're going to start off with the 14-inch. On the left side is a USB Type-A port. Next to that is an HDMI 2.1 port. And next to that are two USB Type-C ports. Now, the first one, Thunderbolt 4, full function. And next to that, USB Type-C 3.2 Gen 2. Now, moving over to the right side is a 3.5 millimeter microphone headphone combo jack. And finally, a second USB Type-A port, a nice legacy port again, to round it out here. Notably missing, no SD card reader of any sort on this 14-inch laptop. All right, let's get to the 16-inch. As far as the ports, on the left side is a USB Type-A port. We got to love the legacy ports once again. HDMI 2.1, good to see that. Two USB Type-C ports. Now, this is a little disappointing. They're not USB 4.0. They're USB 3.2 Gen 2, so they are full function. However, I would say I'd like to see USB 4.0 to give you some of that Thunderbolt type functionality like you get on the Intel variant. So a little disappointing there. Now, moving over to the right side, you get your 3.5 millimeter microphone headphone combo jack and your second USB Type-A port to round it out. Again, notably missing, no SD card reader on this. And on a 16-inch laptop especially, I'm disappointed because if you're going to do content creation with that extra screen real estate, you don't get an SD card reader, and that's kind of disappointing here. You have to use a dongle. I would say overall decent port selection, but again, the big thing here on the 16-inch, no USB 4.0 support and no SD card reader. Okay, let's talk about battery. And the 14-inch has a 59 watt-hour battery, and the 16-inch has a 68 watt-hour battery. I think that's a little bit on the small side for a 16-inch laptop, but nonetheless, we got pretty decent numbers here. The PC Mark 10 Modern Office test, the 14-inch did 10 hours and 40 minutes, and the 16-inch just did a little bit over 10 hours. And on the video playback, on the 14-inch, 10 hours and 5 minutes, and on the 16-inch, 9 hours and 19 minutes all in. I would say the overall takeaway is pretty nice battery life here, despite the fact that the 16-inch doesn't have the largest battery, and for that matter, the 14-inch also doesn't have the largest battery in the category, but pretty nice numbers here, both Meteor Lake on the 14-inch and the AMD Ryzen processor here, also very efficient. So overall takeaway, pretty nice battery life here on these convertibles. And just please keep in mind that everybody's use case is a little bit different, so your mileage may vary when it comes to battery life, as not everybody uses the laptop the same way. So just keep that in mind and use these benchmarks from PC Mark 10 here and all that stuff as a guidepost or a guideline, but not the definitive number, because everybody's use, again, is very different. All right, let's talk performance. And I know a lot of you are looking at the more expensive Spectre X360. When we look at the 14-inch versus the X360 in terms of the Envy line here, we're looking at about $1,000 or maybe a little less than $1,000 difference. And you're not going to see that much of a difference in terms of the performance. Very similar single core. Where you will see is a better multi-core, and that's because it's running the Core Ultra 7 155H on the Spectre line there. And you'll have better graphics. The Intel Arc graphics are a step up over the integrated solution from last year, say Iris Xe, and what they're using here on the NVX 360, which is running the U series processor. So you'll see the difference. It's about double the graphics performance, as you can see from these results. But keep in mind, performance is actually very good for what you need this laptop to do. Microsoft Office, email, web browsing, all worked really well here. Speedy, snappy, everything was very fluid. I didn't have any hiccups with it. The performance was certainly very good when it comes to those type of tasks. And when I ran the Cinebench 2024 to see the difference between the Spectre and the Envy in the 14-inch category here, very similar single-core score here, no big surprise there, but where we're seeing a much better multi-core is on the Spectre, which is running the Core Ultra 7 155H, 749 versus the 450. Remember, the Envy X360 is running the U series, not as many cores, and of course won't be as powerful. But again, performance is certainly good for what you need this convertible to do. There's no doubt about it. And as far as graphics are concerned, the Intel Arc graphics are a step up over the integrated solution on the Envy X360. As you can see, better time spy, better Firestrike scores. Of course, that is to be expected here. These are akin more to Iris Xe scores than they are here to Arc graphics. Again, the Arc graphics are better. Again, you're paying significantly a lot more money there than, of course, you're paying here on the Envy. But certainly good enough. Again, I wouldn't be doing 4K video editing on this. I would limit that to very light 4K, perhaps just 1080p video editing, and I would stick to that. As far as gaming on the 14-inch, of course, here on the Envy, I would lower a lot of the settings there. Of course, you can get some playable frame rates, but the overall takeaway, it's not a gaming laptop per se, but the occasional game here and there, depending on the settings, may be doable. And when we compare the 16-inch Envy versus the 16-inch Spectre X360, we're seeing pretty interesting results here. I saw better single-core performance on that AMD Ryzen-based 8840HS model here versus the Core Ultra 7 155H on the Spectre. We're seeing better multi-core on the Spectre versus what I saw on the Envy. And then we're seeing better OpenCL or GPU score, and that's because that has a discrete GPU, the RTX 4050. And I'm seeing better results, by the way, since I ran the Revision A F10 update on the Spectre X360, so that was a big improvement there. But I think the Ryzen 7 8840HS here is certainly a good player here in this category. I like what they did here in terms of single-core, multi-core. Won't be quite as good, and again, they both have really nice displays here, so really nice value offered here on the Envy X360 16. And when I ran the Cinebench 2024 to compare these 16-inch models, single core was exactly the same, multi-core a little bit better on the Spectre, and that, of course, is to be expected. H series here versus the Ryzen 7 8840HS. Of course, that is pretty decent results nonetheless. Wasn't a huge difference between these two laptops, but slight difference there between the two. And we're seeing a better graphics performance. No surprise there. RTX 4050 discrete GPU is better than the integrated Radeon 780M, which are pretty good graphics in their own right, but not going to be as good as an RTX 4050, even with the limited 55 watts of power that it's fed. So here you see the results. Both got passing scores on the time spy stress test, meaning no thermal throttling detected under load for either model, and that's always good. And for those wondering, the Envy X360 14 also got the same exact passing score, 99.4%, as a 16-inch counterpart, meaning no thermal throttling detected. Amen. Now, when it comes to surface temperatures on the 14-inch, I noticed it reached about 48, 49 degrees Celsius between the E and R keys on the keyboard, which is a little bit warm for my liking, but I think the overall surface temperatures weren't too hot for the most part, but that is the one hot spot there to be aware of. And then above the keyboard below the display where the venting is, of course, it does heat up there, which is to be expected. And on the underside can reach around 48, 49 degrees Celsius where you see the hot spot there, although not the hottest I've ever seen, but definitely something to keep your eye on, that's for sure. Now, these do have single fans, both of them, just to be aware of that. And when it comes to the fan noise, under load on the 14-inch, you're looking at around 43, maybe 44 decibels, which is certainly noticeable, but not the loudest I've ever heard. So they've kept it pretty much at bay, which is pretty decent here, especially under load. When you're doing everyday tasks in the balance mode, was not much of an issue in terms of fan noise. That's always good. Now, surface temperatures on the 16, a little bit different here, 48, 49 above the keyboard, below the display, to be expected. Again, the venting is there. That's normal. And then where you place your fingers on the keyboard, not very hot on this AMD model here, so pretty good in terms of the surface temperatures under load. Now, I did notice a hot spot on the underside reaching 55, 56 degrees Celsius, so certainly noticeable there, but everywhere else it remained relatively cool. But again, keep in mind there is a hot spot there under load. When you're in the balance mode, it didn't really heat up all that much. And when it comes to fan noise, under load reaching about 49 decibels, which is certainly noticeable, but not overly loud. I've heard 16-inch laptops a lot louder when it comes to the fan noise. When you're running in balance mode doing everyday tasks, it was not much of an issue. Now, another area that I really like these Envies is, of course, the keyboard. I do like the tactility, the feedback, and the key travel on both the 14 and the 16. Both are very good for typing out long documents, emails, and the like. I've had no issues with either one. They're really good. And another nice change here, I like the dark keys. So when you see the LED backlight, that's not going to be an issue. Sometimes that was an issue in the past when we had the silver keys. We now have darker keys, making it easy to see the contrast. So that's been really good. The multi-stage backlight on both units worked really well. And like a lot of laptops here in 2024, where AI is a central feature, we have Copilot keys on both the 14 and the 16 here for 2024. Easy access to the Windows Copilot. And of course, that's going to help with AI functionality and the like. And as far as the touchpads are concerned, the 14 and the 16 both have nicely sized touchpads that I thought were responsive for doing scrolling and doing all the gestures, and everything seemed pretty responsive and worked very well. Now, as far as these are not haptic touchpads like you get on the more high-end Spectre line. Those are really good. Here you're getting regular type touchpads, and I think it's fine for this price point. Of course, I'm not expecting haptic, but for a regular mechanical type touchpad, it worked very well. Now, I'm seeing less screen wobble when typing here on this 2024 model. That was an issue that plagued previous years. They've seemed to make the hinges a little bit more tighter, a little bit more firmer, and we're seeing less screen wobble. In fact, I'm seeing virtually no screen wobble when typing. That's a big improvement, especially for a 2-in-1 where you got to expect a little bit. And of course, it's doing really well in that regard here. Now, when it comes to the audio, both have DTS-X Ultra audio, and they both have dual speakers, HPO Audio Boost, and they're Poly Studio speakers. So I think the overall sound is very good. I think the 16-inch sounds better than the 14-inch, although the 14-inch sounds good in its own right. We're going to listen to both of them, and I want you to let me know what you think in the comment section below. I think they're perfectly fine, especially in this price point for the sounds on these laptops in terms of the bass, the mids, and the overall volume. But again, I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comment section below. Now, let's give them a listen. Okay, let's bring it all home. I like the gorgeous OLED displays on both the 14 and the 16. I like the variable refresh rate up to 120 hertz on both models. I like the pen support, although the pen is sold separately. The all-metal design, it's pretty rock solid. The overall build is really good here. Better in terms of the overall aesthetics. I like what they're doing here. Good port selection, good battery life on both the 14 and the 16. I like the darker keys that they're using here, making it easier to see the backlight when it's on, and the good IR cameras here. I think the 14-inch was a little bit better, though. Improved hinges means less screen wobble when typing, and you're also getting pretty nice audio on both the 14 and the 16. Negatives, of course, soldered RAM, which is par for the course here, 2024. AMD model caps out at 16 gigabytes of RAM, where you can go up to 32 on the Intel-based model. No SD card reader on either unit. The pen is sold separately. I kind of wish it was included. Would have been more of a value there. And AMD model comes with MediaTek Wi-Fi 6E, not the Wi-Fi 7 that you get on the 14-inch model running the Intel Core Ultra 7 processor. And on the AMD model specifically, no USB 4, which would have given you that Thunderbolt type functionality. You are stuck with USB 3.2 Gen 2. A little disappointing there. But again, I understand the cost saving measures they're trying to pass on, but it would have been nice to have USB 4. But I like what HP's doing here, whether you go with the AMD-based model, which is the 16-inch version that I looked at, that's going to give you the better performance. And the smaller footprint of the 14 certainly has a lot to offer here as we went over here. So really good job here, 2024. A lot of improvements we wanted to see in the Envy line are here, and I highly recommend them here for 2024.
So please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share this video. Don't forget to leave a comment in that comment section below. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's a device or something out there you think I should review. I'll do my best to try to make that happen. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. And don't forget to check out my website, amdtechreviews.com. So until next time, this is Andrew, and I'll see you in the next video.